November 20th meeting of the Zionsville Planning Commission. I'll be standing in for Dave Franz, who is remote this evening. If we could all stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Dale, if you could take attendance, please.
David Franz.
Present.
Mary Grabanowski.
Present.
Larry Jones. Present. Sharon Walker.
Present.
Chris Lake.
Present.
Jim Hurst. Present. Cindy Madrick.
Present.
All present.
Great. The next item on the agenda is the Community and Economic Development October monthly report. This is for information only is included in the online packet. Next up is approval of the October 16th, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Does anybody have any comments or changes to those minutes? Can I get a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we need to do a roll call vote, please, Mr. Dale?
David Franz.
Aye.
Mary Grabanowski.
Aye.
Larry Jones. Aye. Sharon Walker.
Aye.
Chris Lake.
Aye.
Jim Hurst. Aye. Cindy Madrick.
Aye.
Great. First up on our agenda tonight is item 2023-28-Z. It's a continuance request for Bradley Ridge PUD zoning, parcel addressed as 1120, 1310, 1550 South US Highway 421, 1555 South 950 East, and 9625 East 100 South. This was continued from the July meeting to August to September to October. Now it's being asked to be continued to December. It's a petition for rezoning of 349 plus or minus acres, which consists of 9 parcels from the Rural General Agricultural AG, Rural Single Family Residential R1, and Rural Single and 2-Family Residential R2 districts to the Planned Unit Development PUD district. Is a petitioner here, and would they like to speak?
Yes, for the record, Mr. Chairman, my name is Matt Price. I'm the attorney for Hinkie Development Group, the petitioner in this matter. We've continued to have good dialogue with the primary group of neighbors and interested constituencies that is represented by counsel, Mr. Rodolfo. They operate under the name of Save Rural Zionsville. Most recently, we conducted some group tours on the property last Monday evening. We've had a number of revisions to the PUD that have been done at the request of Save Rural Zionsville. In my view, we're kind of down to one significant issue, which has to do with the preservation and delineation of areas of tree canopy to be preserved. We were provided with a map on Thursday that kind of further illustrates what Save Rural Zionsville's request is about. And after receiving that and I think understanding more about what they're seeking, we determined to seek a continuance request and notified Mr. Rodolfo and his client as well as Mr. Kilmer. Thank you.
Any questions or comments from the commission? Okay, seeing none, can I get a motion to continue?
I move that we continue. Docket number 2023. No, I'm sorry, the Bradley property. 2023-28Z.
Okay, can I get a second?
Second.
All right, roll call vote, please.
Cindy Madrick.
Yes.
Jim Hurst. Aye. Chris Lake.
Aye.
Sharon Walker.
Aye.
Larry Jones. Aye. Mary Grabanowski.
Aye.
David Franz.
Aye.
All approved.
Great, thank you. That'll be continued to the December 18th meeting. Next item up for continuance is docket item 2023-39-DP Stoller Roofing Office Building located at 5898 South 700 East Zionsville. This was continued from the October 16th meeting. It's a petition for a development plan approval for the expansion of a parking area for roofing business being in the rural single-family residential district. It is our understanding that the petitioner is not present. If that's not the case, would the petitioner like to speak? All right, hearing nobody. It is our understanding that the petitioner actually would like to postpone this until the February meeting. Do we know the date of that meeting by chance?
Would be the third Tuesday of,
That would be, yeah, that'd be the 20th. Okay, so we will go ahead and with obviously the commission's vote, move that to the February 20th, 2024 Plan Commission meeting. Does anybody have any comment or question on the commission? All right, hearing none, can we get a motion to continue?
I would move that we move the petition 2023-39-DP to the third Tuesday in February, which is the 20th.
Yes. All right, can I get a second?
Second.
Great, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Sharon Walker,
Aye.
Chris Lake,
Aye.
Jim Hurst, Cindy Madrick,
Aye.
David Franz,
aye.
Mary Grabanowski.
Aye.
Larry Jones.
Aye.
All right, on to our next item. For continuance, 2023-47-DP. This is Indie Holdings LLC Sing Retail Building located at 3251 South US Highway 421 Zionsville. The petitioner is requesting a continuance to the December 18th meeting. This is a petition for development plan approval of a 6,500 square foot retail building in the rural general business GB district and within the rural Michigan Road overlay. Waivers for architectural design and building materials are also requested. Is the petitioner present and would you like to speak? They're online. Could you please promote them? Can our petitioner for that project please speak? Is that Rusty?
Yes, Rusty Spires, can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Rusty Spires with Spires Engineering representing Indie Holdings. And yes, we would like a continuance. We had several things that we needed to work on. One was the landscaping plan. Another was the signage, and we want to make some changes also that would help with those issues. Originally, we'd planned for two users, a liquor store and a restaurant, and we would need 2 signs for that, and that would require a variance. And the owner decided just to omit the liquor store. That'll simplify things. So apart from that, we have some things to work through with the landscaping and a few other minor drainage issues. We think we can get them resolved pretty well, but we would agree with the continuance.
Okay, thank you. Any questions or comments from the commission?
Real quick, just given the proposed use, what's requiring the need for the relief from the architectural design and building materials, the Michigan Road overlay? What's generating that? Doesn't sound like there's anything particular to the use.
Well, trying to stay consistent with the Appaloosa crossing materials and architectural style, and just I'm not the architect. I've read the requests, and the same owner did the convenience store next door, and that matched the retail center up the way to the north. And so there's apparently a theme of style and materials that Appaloosa Crossing has, which apparently requires waivers. And I think we got waivers for the convenience store we did last year, and basically requesting the same waivers for this just to match the style. Maybe Roger knows more of the particulars than I do.
Glad to jump in. If you recall, that this is part of the Appaloosa Crossing development, which is within the rural Michigan Road overlay. One of the requirements of the rural Michigan Road overlay is to design with the Zionsville theme in mind, which is Georgian and Victorian, and there are 4 different styles. But when the initial buildings of Appaloosa Crossing were approved, they wanted to establish their vernacular, their flavor for the development. which was not consistent with the Zionsville theme. And so every project within Appaloosa Crossing that has come before you has needed these waivers to stay consistent with the Appaloosa theme, which is different than the Zionsville theme. If that makes sense.
Anything else, Mr. Jones?
Nope.
All right. Any other comments, questions from the commission? If not, can we get a motion?
Sure, I move docket 2023-47 DP be moved to the December 18th meeting.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Cindy Madrick,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Chris Lake,
Aye.
Sharon Walker,
Aye.
Larry Jones,
Aye.
Mary Grabanowski,
Aye.
David Franz,
Aye.
all approved.
All right, and we've got one more pair of petitions for continuance, and we're going to do these together. So the first one is 2023-49-PP, and the second one is 2023-50-DP. Both are Old Town Land Development LLC, Wild Air Section 1. The first one is for a primary plat. The second one is for a development plan. Both are addressed at 8700 West Oak Street, Zionsville, and then they're asking for a continuance to the December 18th, 2023 meeting. The first petition is a petition for approval of a primary plat to establish 174 residential lots on 262.5 acres, being in the planned unit development Wild Air PUD district. The second petition is a petition for approval of a development plan for 174 residential lots on 262.5 acres within the planned unit development Wild Air PUD district. Any question, or if the petitioner is present, would you like to speak? All right, nope. Okay. Any questions or comments from the commission? All right, hearing none, can we get a motion?
I move that we continue 2023-49-PP and 2023-50-DP to the December meeting.
Thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Thanks. Roll call vote, please.
David Franz,
Aye.
Mary Grabanowski,
Aye.
Larry Jones,
Aye.
Sharon Walker,
Aye.
Chris Lake,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Cindy Madrick,
Aye.
all approved.
Okay, so our next item on the agenda is continued business from the previous meeting. Our first petition item is petition 2023-27-Z. It's the Atwater rezoning. It's 7250 West Oak Street, Zionsville. This was continued originally from the July 2017 meeting all the way to tonight. The petition is for rezoning of 10 plus or minus acres from the rural professional business PB, rural single and two family residential R2, and rural single and two family R3 districts to the rural general business GB district. Roger, would you like to start with staff report, please?
Yes, thank you very much. If I could have my screen projected, please. We go. Thank you. As mentioned, the petition for consideration is the rezoning of 10 acres from 3 different zoning classifications currently to the rural general business district for the development of a self-storage facility. On the screen in front of you is a location map. The subject property is located on the north side of Oak Street or Wedgetown Parkway. It is outlined here in black. Again, this is a total of 10 acres. Moving on to the zoning map, this is where we'll see the 3 different zoning classifications. We have rural professional business is the somewhat purple color. the R2 district, which is this lighter blue is here. And then we have an R3 district, which includes just this very small portion of the site. This site is not only encumbered by 3 different zoning classifications, there is a significant easement that runs diagonally through the site. You'll see soon when I pull up the proposed site plan, but that also encumbers the site. The comprehensive plan for this area, again, if you can follow my hand, this is in the Eagle Township future land use map. This area where the hand is Stonegate, and right in the middle of that is the 10 acres that I've been referring to. And that area is actually designated for ag general according to this future land use map, which was done a number of years ago. What is being proposed is a rezoning to the rural GB district, general business district, for a proposed use of a self-storage facility. The petitioner has provided submitted commitments limiting the permitted land uses to self-storage, mini warehousing, and professional offices. The petitioner's intent is to develop a self-storage facility on the subject site. Again, to orient you, Oak Street or Whitestown Parkway is here on the south side, so north is up. Access to the development would be through a right in, right out here. There would be an emergency access only off of Stonegate Drive. There would be one larger building that's climate controlled on the front, near the front of the site, and then some of the more standard self-storage facilities back behind within the site. Going to move on. Unfortunately, this came out much darker than what it actually is, so please, they're not proposing a black building. I was not able to adjust the color on that, but these are the elevations of the weather-controlled building. Then they also provided elevations of the standard self-storage buildings that would be located on the northern portion of the site. Then they've also provided a landscape plan. Should point out that on this landscape plan, it does show a drainage pipe right through this area that would empty into the existing pond. I know that the petitioner has worked diligently with the neighborhood group and said, this is what we would do for you. Need to make it aware that this pipe is not currently in an easement, and if our DPW department would ask for an easement to accommodate that pipe, there's a chance that either the southern 2 or 4 trees in this clumping might have to be relocated just to comply with the easement and be outside of the easement. As for topics of interest on this project, the Stonegate Property Owners Association has submitted a letter of support dated November 11th, 2023, and it is provided within the letters of interest in your packet this evening. If this rezoning would be approved, the proposed use of a self-storage facility would still require BZA approval of a special exception, and then ultimately development plan approval from the Plan Commission. So even though tonight we're discussing the rezoning, there would still be 2 more steps that the self-storage facility would have to secure. One, an approval from the BZA, and back before you for the development plan. Staff supports a favorable recommendation of the petition for zone map change with the requirement that the proposed commitments that the petitioner has provided be recorded. If adopted by the town council, they be recorded prior to the filing of any related zoning petitions, such as the BZA special exception or the Plan Commission filings for development plan approval. I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions from commission members for staff? No. Hearing none, would the petitioner like to come and speak on this topic?
Yes, good evening once again, Matt Price. here tonight on behalf of the petitioner for the project Roger just summarized so well. Let me introduce our development team and then kind of walk you through a few of the things that Roger didn't mention, maybe emphasize a few points that he did. First of all, our project lead is Dave Soto over there in the second row. He's sitting next to Kunal Rawani. Kunal helps with the civil engineering for the site. And then we also have Jeff Hines, who's part of the development team for the project as well. As you noted at the introduction of the matter on the docket tonight, the matter was continued several times. And we made good use of that time. It took a great deal of effort to work through the details for the project. And what we did was meet with both adjoining property owners as well as the Stonegate Property Owners Association to work through the details of the proposal. So if you could call up my PowerPoint, I'll walk you through a few items that I'd like to draw your attention to. You go to the next slide. Here's the property aerial. We've studied this property very carefully, and it's a very awkwardly shaped property, as I think Roger alluded to, kind of origami-like in terms of its shape. It is encumbered by electric power lines, which you can see kind of running from the southwest to the northeast part of the property, which more or less bisects it, into 2/3 to the north and 1/3 to the south. And there's also kind of a drainage ditch that runs from the pond extending to the southeast towards the neighbor to the east. The other thing that's kind of curious about the property and its history is that a portion of the pond, which I think to outside observers would just naturally belong to Stonegate, is actually on this property. And so Stonegate did not have total control, if you will, over that pond and the adjoining shoreline. And so that's been a complicating factor for that association in terms of providing maintenance to that pond and maintenance to the shoreline around that pond. And so I'll come back to that, but that's one of the other kind of complicating factors. And then as was noted during the initial presentation, there's an east-west kind of access drive that goes through a professional business section portion of Stonegate that connects to this property. So it's off the, if you go north into the entrance into Stonegate and go east, it would enter into this property. And that's the access drive that we would plan to be only for emergency access only. In fact, install a gate that reflects or tracks the architectural style for Stonegate. So we would have stone columns and wrought iron fencing, which is part of the proposed conditions of approval, part of our agreement with the Stonegate Property Owners Association, part of our commitments that we made here tonight. Go to the next slide. This is more of a general kind of aerial, if you will, of the site. For those of us from Zionsville, I think probably all of us in this room have driven by this parcel over the years and probably wondered about it a little bit. And so, this is an opportunity, hopefully, to clean up several matters and put it to a use that can be compatible with its neighbors, and also solve some issues for the homeowners association. One other thing I'll note just with regard to this slide, and it helps inform, I think, why so much time was necessary in order to work through the details. Up in the upper left-hand corner are various of the constituencies, utility providers, and jurisdictions that have something to say about this property. We've consulted and worked with each one of those entities very productively, but it took some time. So you'll notice, for example, that Whitestown controls access onto Oak Street and controls the sanitary sewer access. Zionsville obviously has control over zoning. The remaining utility providers are Citizens and Duke. And then also, and very importantly, the Stonegate Property Owners Association, with whom we've had a great relationship over the last several weeks. Go to the next slide. This is our site plan, which I think Roger covered very well. Access is to the western portion of the property. The idea is to create the traffic circulation on the interior of the site, so there wouldn't be a way or any need to travel outside the interior loop, if you will, as it extends to the northeast. The building, which is climate controlled, where our offices would be located, is the building to the south and west corner of the property, just off of Oak Street. Yes, thank you very much. And the remainder of the buildings are, as Roger mentioned, more of the traditional mini storage type units, all at a very low profile. It's one of the attractive features of this design is that those buildings are up to 9 foot 9 inches at their highest point. The roof is slightly slanted, so it goes down to, in that instance, an 8 foot 8 inch roof. So they're very low profile and kind of be tucked behind the trees and the landscaping that's around the northern perimeter of the property, as well as the additional landscaping that will be added throughout the site. Go to the next slide. This gives you an idea of what that landscaping looks like. We're doing kind of a combination on the northern perimeter of adding both evergreen plantings as well as deciduous trees, and preserving trees that are high quality and can be add to the diversity while also providing an important screening. When we met with neighbors, we had some very specific requests. So we've added landscaping along our western property line, which you see to the far left. We've also had some specific requests with regard to the landscaping to the east. So you see that kind of light green shaded area where we indicate there'll be some lower landscaping there. If you notice, that property owner has a swimming pool to our east, and he wanted to have lower landscaping next to him there to not block sunlight into his swimming pool. And I believe he also provided a letter of interest in support of the proposal, but been very good to work with. While this slide is up, let me just mention that part of the agreement with the Stonegate Property Owners Association is to convey that portion of the pond and adjoining shoreline to that Property Owners Association in fee. So they would own by a deed that property going forward in perpetuity. The petitioner here would receive an easement back to be able to use the pond for drainage purposes. There's an agreement that we would first have to demonstrate that pond, and we believe it is, that pond has been engineered and has the adequate capacity to take the stormwater. But that is part of the agreement that we do have with the Property Owners Association. And again, while this slide is up, let me just emphasize that the access off of Oak Street is to be right in, right out only. That is being dictated to us by the town of Whitestown. And so that's what we show on here. One of the attractive features of this development is that it generates very little traffic in comparison to just about any other land use, including other land uses that are permitted between and among the 3 existing zoning classifications that cover the site today. And so our belief is that the right in and the right out will provide sufficient access to serve the customers of the project, unlike probably it would for any other type of land use that might command more or need more access. That also allows us to then limit the access drive to our west for emergency purposes only, as we've discussed. Part of the idea here that you may see is that we want to be compatible with Stonegate, but really separated from Stonegate. The idea is not to have our customers have any need to travel through Stonegate. We've agreed not to use the name Stonegate. The idea is to be screened, buffered, the use is limited on site to, as we mentioned, the professional business and the mini storage as we're presenting here tonight. You go to the next slide. And my coloration is probably only slightly better, maybe if at all. But the it's a Boston brick masonry veneer material. So it's kind of a reddish brick. The architecture was inspired by and borrowed from, really to some extent, the Walgreens further east. That was the idea, structure that does adhere to the Zionsville theme, in which this plan commission did an excellent job of assuring the high quality there so that future petitioners, just like this petitioner, would meet that high standard. So that's the idea here as well. Next slide. And these are the lower profile buildings that I mentioned that have the very limited height that are in the center and northeast portion of the property. Again, all on the north and west of the power lines. You go to the next slide. Those have the dimensions, et cetera, that I've mentioned before on them. And then these are the written commitments, which I've spoken to in generality, but I want to make sure that we all understand tonight those are part of the zoning packet, and we've made these agreements in writing to Stonegate. So all of these items 1 through 7 are to be made written commitments recorded against the property. So it'd be going forward, the property would be bound to each one of these commitments. So there would be no outdoor storage. All the storage on site would be enclosed within the storage units or within the climate controlled building. Again, western entrance is emergency only. And we have a specific request from the Property Owners Association about the design guidelines for the entry gate through the emergency access. Not to use the name, the landscaping and orientation of the buildings will be as presented tonight. Those are made part of the commitments. We also made commitments with regard to on-site lighting to assure there would be no light spillage onto adjoining property. So we provided a specification to the Stonegate Property Owners Association that included this commitment with regard to downward directed wall packs on the interior side of buildings, and that any light pole lighting would be adjacent to either building A, well, to building A and Oak Street. And then of course we would comply with the photometric requirements once we go through the development plan stage. Then the last commitment has to do with the limitation on the land uses. And as Roger mentioned, our intention would be then to go to the next step if we're fortunate to be approved tonight and by the council. Then our intention would be to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals for a special exception after the rezoning is completed. Next thing. And then these are also what I'm calling key additional agreements that the way we phrased it in the documentation that we submitted to the town was that these items would be made conditions of the approval because there's some future documentation that will need to be prepared with the association, including deeding the property and adjoining shoreline to the association, the grant of an access back to the petitioner here for drainage purposes, the agreement that the access drive will be for emergency access only, and also we reiterated the wrought iron fencing and stone column requirement with regard to the features there. And then we also envision that there would be an ongoing, since we would be using a portion of the capacity of the pond, there'd be an ongoing maintenance agreement where the property owner here would pay its share of ongoing maintenance. My understanding being that the Stonegate Property Owners Association would like to be in control of that, but share costs going forward. I would be remiss if I didn't say, first, I guess, thank you both to the Plan Commission for allowing us the extra time, and also in particular to the Property Owners Association. They formed a special study committee, met with us, gave us very clear direction as far as what they would like to see, and they've been very great to work with. We've appreciated their time and energy. This is Dave Soto's and our job, but it's not necessarily their their job. They have other jobs. And so for them to take that additional time, it's very much appreciated. And we wouldn't have gotten this far without their inputs along the way. For all those reasons, we respectfully ask your recommendation of approval to rezone, and would welcome the opportunity to answer any questions.
So before we open it up to public comment, are there any questions or comments for Mr. Price from the commission?
What's the total number of rental units he'll have here in these buildings?
That's a good question.
I would just say
Dave,
that,
Dave,
You've got to go up to the podium.
sorry to put you on the spot, Dave.
no worries.
And when you get up there, if you can give your name and address for the record as well.
Hello, everybody. My name is David Soto. I'm with the National Retail Development Group and project lead for the project that we're discussing. First off, again, thank you, everybody, for time and effort that was put into this, specifically our conversations with Stonegate. But getting to the direct question, the initial building on the front, which is Building A, is about 39,000 square per floor. And then the back portion is 29,400. So probably anticipate somewhere, and that's typical to other projects that we own and operate through Extra Space Self-Storage. And that probably puts you about 650 in terms of units. And those are various sizes. So that could be as simple as a 5x5 or as large as a 10 by 30 or 10 by 20. So that's why the range in sizes. So obviously, if you did more 5x5s, you'd have more unit counts. We anticipate, just because of square footage in terms of the marketplace, that we'll probably have more 10 by 15s, 10 by 20s. So that would shrink down the unit count. But from a square footage standpoint, it's 29,400 for the non-climates that Matt described that are on the back that sit about 994 and lower 88 on the front, depending on the slope. And then on the front, that would be 39,075 is the floor plate, just in terms of the floor area, just to give you perspective on square footage size. But
So I missed somewhere in all that. The number of units that are on the in the open side, or how many?
it's on the open side, you mean the non-climates?
Correct.
Those are 29,400 is in terms of square footage. So
How many units?
ballpark.
The units you have on your plan?
I could look at it but I'm assuming we really didn't divvy it up in terms of the total the total unit count.
So I counted 177. So
Okay,
basically
that sounds about
there's
right. So the remainder of the 650 goes into the
820 to 900 units.
probably, again, the ones inside will be probably 10 by 15s or 10 by 30s. And we certainly can have that ready for the next meeting in terms of unit counts.
That's assuming an average of 100 square foot unit and then some circulation space. So,
Yep.
all right. So basically it's an 800 to 900 unit storage facility.
It probably 800, but I think it's going to be a little smaller than that, just because I think some of those units will be a little bigger.
Does it operate 24/7?
It does not. So that's a good question. So office hours are typically Monday through Friday from 9:30 to 6 p. Saturdays are 9:30 to 12. And then Sunday, there is no office hours. In terms of access to the property, typically it's 7 o'clock to 9 p. And that would be a customer that obviously has keypad access and then,
And that's the same for the climate controlled and the non-climate?
yes.
Is the office space for on-site management?
It is. And so typically that's either 1 to 2 employees that would be operating at the front, and that's a pretty small office, but
But the access to the storage units, would that be 24/7?
it would not.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is office hours, but then there's limited access into the facility, which I just described. Yep.
So, Mr. Price, one of the items we were talking about earlier before the meeting, your commitment number 5 says the orientation, size, and materials of and for the buildings will, and I think it's supposed to say be as presented. I think the word be is gone. And then at the public hearing on November 20th, 2023, and I think the word developed is missing, developed in accordance with the site plan attached hereto as Exhibit B, and the building elevations attached hereto as Exhibit C. Are those changes that you would be willing to incorporate into that commitment?
Yes, and thank you. And just to clarify, so that would be and developed in accordance? Okay.
Yes,
Yeah, that's fine.
thank you. Any other questions right now from commission? Okay, we'll go ahead and open it up to public remonstrance for and against the project. If you can please come up to the microphone, state your name and address, comment on the petition, and then move on to the next person.
Good evening. Thank you. My name is CK Worrell. I live on West Stonegate. So on the maps that were up, I live on the west north end portion of the pond.
Can you give that address, please?
Yeah, it's 6725 West Stonegate Drive.
Thank you.
I'm going to go against a little bit of what's been said about the involvement of the neighborhood. You mentioned the last couple of weeks, there's been a total of 2 emails from the HOA to the entire neighborhood about this issue. The subcommittee that has been formed, that has been working with them closely, I applied to be on it. I know a bunch of people that live on the pond that applied to be on it, and nobody has gotten back to. So I think there's a total of 5 or 6 people on that subcommittee. Seems like a lot of gatekeeping is happening with this. So I know it's unofficial. I did release a poll. I have numbers here. I put it online to get as many people responding as I can. I got 33 responses, which out of around 350 homes is close to statistically significant. But it's interesting. If you work on these percentages, it should be pretty telling. About 88% are against, 3% don't have enough information. And the main reason that they say is because they're concerned about their property value. And that is a major concern. My major concern, besides that, is the pond. I do not believe the pond is engineered to handle the runoff of this size of storage unit. I live on the north side, and in the 3 years I've lived there, I've watched the depth of the pond go from about 6 feet to about 1 foot. That pond is not going to take this runoff. It is going to need to be dredged and re-engineered. I firmly believe that, and I have worked with the HOA on the pond matters. And the people that are for it, and that's 9%. They cite that the devil, this is the devil, and that is what was written in an email is this company, and they are working with the subcommittee. I do believe that, but I asked people here, what is Zionsville known for? I think there was a architect talking before. I wrote down Georgian and Victorian. When I think of Zionsville, I think of cobblestone streets. I think of strong zoning. I do not think of storage units and Amazon warehouses. The square footage of this alone I know it's right along the edge of when things turn big box. And I know Stonegate is kind of on the edge of Zionsville and is probably easily forget about. But if you go into Stonegate, you see a lot of people that really care about the neighborhood, that care about their houses, care about the craftsmanship of their houses. And I do not feel like this storage unit fits in with that. And so I have the results. I have them in a printed format. I have them in a URL format if anybody would like them. I know it's unofficial. Thanks for letting me talk. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mark Adams. I am at 6670 Regents Park Drive in Stonegate. I oppose this request to rezone the rural single and 2-family residential R2 and rural and single family R3. This request for the storage unit. This parcel was described as awkward, and as you drive by it, you maybe can see that it's awkward, but it is not our responsibility to ensure that Tally Ho Farms LLC, Zionsville Industrial Partners 1 LLC, Atwater Rezoning, National Retail Development LLC, and Extra Space Storage Inc. traded under New York Stock Exchange as EXR with a 27.4 billion market cap and a 1.58 billion 2021 revenue get a return on their investment. Our responsibility is to make sure that we're not shoehorning this square peg into a round hole. You could see the aerial photo when it was presented by Roger. It's just little, we just gotta change this zone and change that and talk to these utilities and change this. It's not equipped to be a storage facility in its awkward shape. It's our responsibility to make sure we're being logical when we approach this and objective. It's obvious to me that they're really leaning on this Stonegate Homeowners Association as letters of support. And I would just want to flat out say that I'll echo CK's concerns. It's a very closed committee. There was, I don't know how many members, but I know it's a handful. And they use tactics that they were influenced to use tactics that I think are just appalling. That area that the property adjoins to is our cottage section. It's filled, it's mainly filled, the intent of that area is a retirement type community, lower maintenance. People in that area on that particular street, the adjoining property owners are more focused on their grandchildren and visiting their winter property in Florida for the winter than they are going against extra space storage incorporated under New York Stock Exchange EXR with a 27.4 billion market cap. So I think it's our responsibility to deny this zoning request because it doesn't fit. I asked the board to strongly consider the numerous letters written in opposition. There was only one letter, hey, don't block my pool. And that's been addressed, but the numerous letters of opposition and this poll that CK referenced. Sorry, I'm a little lost on where I was trying to get. The fact is, you can say that it's a brick building or whatever. You're closing off a path into our neighborhood, however you want to refer it. The language used pretty much tells me they're not going to extend the turn lane. So every time someone turns right into the storage center, I got to make sure I don't rear end them. So crime will go up, burglary, vandalism will happen. This is a huge missed opportunity with this property. It could be something else, not a storage unit. That's not for us to decide. This is not the devil we know as it was used in the language. They are a huge business. These are billions of dollars companies. They will quickly sell to the next company. Oh, whoops, I forgot that I wasn't supposed to let you in 24 hours. These promises will be broken. It will be in disarray. It will not be maintained. There'll be 900 units plus in there. There'll be one person in operation, maybe watching it, maybe not. Maybe they don't come in that day. We shouldn't have to create a social and viral movement to oppose such careless asks. I think you can look at this objectively and say it does not belong where they're trying to put it. So kind of some summary. I don't believe that companies like this have any regard for the community with regard to these scare tactics they use. They reference things like, oh, this could be rezoned and become a trailer home or trailer park and things like that. These scare tactics and having closed door meetings. The HOA does not represent the majority of homeowners in the area. And in summary, the right height for this building is 0.0 feet. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak?
Members of the commission, my name's AJ Barbato. I live at 6551 West Deerfield Drive. I'm also the president of the Stonegate Property Owners Association. Just wanted to give, I guess, a little bit of context and history as it relates to our interaction with the development and where we came from where we arrived to on it. Back in July, when we found out about it, we did have productive dialogue with the applicant about meeting. And at that time, we did form a subcommittee under the direction of the board to engage with the applicant and the application. It's a very challenging lot for our community, not to relitigate the entire past of the planning efforts there, but as you can kind of see, portions of it were at one point represented to be a part of it. Even some of the cottage owners that were referenced have sales materials from the original developer showing that as Stonegate Common Area. For different reasons, things happened with the easement and so that's what we're left with and what we're trying to solve. And we do think, and we appreciate the applicant coming to us and working through issues such as buffering the pond, the property line, and finding a way to make it cohesive with what is a complicated community. We have commercial uses in the center of it, a professional business district, and different densities of housing, from paired houses to cottages to larger lots. We did have extensive outreach in terms of through our neighborhood-wide email system. Like I said, we did have a subcommittee that also sent out to people that responded to that additional communication. We received their messages, went through them, and actually responded to all those questions in comment form and passed those different concerns on. As far as the commitments go that are in front of you, those were voted on by our Property Owners Association unanimously to agree to them at the previous meeting. So from our point of view, that was vetted by that association. And as far as the association goes too, some of these lots like the pond, the property line are common areas that are the purview and under control of the association. Just that same, we also don't want to supersede our residents, and just as the applicant has, I would hope and I assume they will continue to work with them on issues that people bring up over the due course of the planning effort.
Anyone else care to speak? Okay, Mr. Casey,
Yeah, I just want to make, excuse me.
Name and address, please.
My name is John Casey, C-A-S-E-Y, and I live at 7597 West Stonegate Drive, which is in fairly close proximity to the project. I do want to make a couple of observations that probably won't make much difference to you, but they make a lot of difference to me. I was on the original elected Stonegate Property Owners Association board. And one of our goals at that time in 2016 was to be transparent with our members. And we've attempted to do that, gentlemen. We've tried. So at our annual meeting, we gave a half-hour presentation on this. And I know it because I gave it. So we've also communicated in emails with those of our members who provide their email addresses. And Stonegate's about a 367 unit lot. So when you start talking in terms of 30 people, you're less than 10%. Now, my guess, if you go out there and poll everybody in Stonegate, excuse me, Matt, you'd probably have 15% of the people that don't want a storage unit. I mean, just the way it is. You know what I'm talking about. In fact, I tried to convince them to put in a pet cemetery, but they didn't seem to want to go along with that. So when you look at that property, if you've walked it like I have several times, that's a difficult piece of property to develop. It just is. The creek you're showing is also part of the drainage system. So it's not only encumbered by utility easement, it has that creek running through it. To try to put in anything, like a housing development that would meet Stonegate standards, just impossible. And believe me, if our developers could have made money off of that, they would have done it, and they couldn't. And that's the reason it wasn't developed. Originally, that property was owned by Flanners and Buchanan, and then the Wrightses bought it. And a portion of that property then was developed into Stonegate. Yeah, I know there's a lot of big industry, and it's here in Zionsville. I go out of Stonegate Drive and I go to Lowe's. I don't know what size company Lowe's is. And I go to Myers. I don't know what size that is, but certainly multi-million-dollar companies. So I think that has nothing to do with it. People talk about home values. That's always an argument, as you know, in zoning. I go out the drive, there's a liquor store right across the street, And one of the first things I did as being on the board was show up to Whitestown to remonstrate against the liquor store. Well, that didn't work either, did it? But in any event, the reason I'm here is you don't know how much trouble that piece of property is causing and will cause to Stonegate, because we don't own that pond, we don't own that shoreline, and because when the developers left, he talks about an access drive. It's not an access drive. They owned the common part of property, and they gave an easement over that our property, our common area, into that property. And thank God, if this goes through, we've at least got it limited to emergency use, and it's not going to be a public thoroughfare. Our cottage folks are most affected. They abut right up to it. And about 5 of them were at our annual meeting and all very happy with the way that the applicants worked with them. And again, this is just the first step. You got to then move on to a development plan, right? And so the proof's going to be in the pudding when it comes to that. But you don't get there until you get through your rezoning. So my position or my thought is, living closer to it than most people in Stonegate, it's not going to affect my property value, not any more than the liquor store or Lowe's or anything else. Our property values in Stonegate are booming, have been for several years. Are there other things that perhaps I would prefer? Well, it's really hard to tell what could go in there that would be compatible or more compatible with Stonegate. So when you're looking then at the drainage issue that they brought up, as you all know, it's going to be the Boone County Drainage Board that determines that issue. I mean, they're going to have to present a drainage plan. I've talked with the surveyor. One reason that pond was expanded, the reason it's on the subject property, is because when they developed, I think it was Section 8, they went ahead and expanded the pond for the future drainage. And I think you're going to find that well, I don't want to be specific on that because I just don't know. I'll just simply say that the Drainage Board, of course, has authority over the drainage issues involved, and that pond won't be hooked in, or the improvements won't be hooked in if the pond is inadequate to hold the drainage. So that's just the way it goes. So that's all I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else care to speak on this petition? Hold on, we've got somebody else that would like to speak.
My name's Theo Ranky. I live at 7370 West Oak Street, at the property immediately to the east of the Rose development. I've lived there for, my wife and I, about 2.5 years now. We bought this property. As you saw, it's a unique property, only 100 feet wide, but 800 feet long. So I share about 900 feet of property line with this development. So I knew it would be developed one day. I was hoping it'd never be developed, or they'd come and offer me $10 million for my lot, and I'd happily sell, but they didn't want to do that. So ideally, yeah, I'd like to leave this lot as it is. I'm fine with it. I like how it looks. I like the natural wildlife around. I like having the buffer from my property and my house, and as has been mentioned, my pool. I'm the pool guy apparently. I like having that buffer, but I understand something's going to happen with it. As area like Zionsville, a lot that size isn't going to stay empty. I think a self-storage is probably the best use of the property. In terms of me, I think it's the lowest impact. As Matt pointed out, it's 30 cars a day. Any other use would be way more traffic, way more noise. I can't count the number of times I've driven by self-storage and never seen anyone there. So I was concerned with the lighting, but as they pointed out, the lighting's all gonna be down. I believe it was back in the spring. I was out in my yard and I see Kunal walking out there with a clipboard, and I asked who he was, what he's doing. He told me the self-storage, and he spent probably 45 minutes with me, and we just walked the property. I told him about all the trees kind of along the border there that I love. They were very mature, large trees. I said, I hate to see these come down, even though I know they're on your side of the property. I love to have them as the buffer. And when I got the plans, they took every one of my requests into account, and then some as I went back and made some changes. So yeah, I agree. A storage unit isn't the best to have in the neighborhood, but it's probably the best thing we could have. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anybody that hasn't spoke yet that wants to get up and speak? Okay, we're going to go ahead and take this to commission comments because you did have your time to speak. Any questions or comments from the commission members?
I've always got a few, so somebody else.
I've got a question for Roger. Given that this is a referral to town council for a rezone change, are we able, or would it be contingent on pond capacity or not, because they could address stormwater in another manner?
I'm hoping council will correct me if I step out of line here. I trust that he will. But from a pond capacity standpoint, we're talking about an engineering item that would be addressed more during the
Development plan.
either the special exception or the development plan
Okay.
stage, not now at the
Okay.
rezoning.
That's fair enough. What uses, so we got residential on the site, single and, oh, what's the petition say? We've got multiple residential uses, and then we've got a business use on the site currently. What are some of the business uses that could go there based on that current zoning? Do you know that or have access to that easily? And I only ask because I'm just mildly curious about what.
I'm
could
gonna
have
ask the
gone
same
there.
question, so.
Yeah, I mean, and the way I look at it is there are a lot of, in some of these remonstrance letters, a lot of people would love to see a lot of other things. They all had the chance to buy the property when it was up for sale and build those things. And nobody has. And part of that's because of the value and of the property and the complexity of the site to develop it, I think. But I'm curious just what could have been. It looks like Mr. Price might have that. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. Again, the site has 3 different zoning classifications on it. The rural PB, which is professional business, the rural R3 and the rural R2. The 2 rural R classifications are both residential classifications. So your question, as I understand, is more what can happen on the PB section of this site. Based upon the information provided to me by the petitioner, PB portion of the site would permit the following: veterinary hospital, mineral extraction, church, recreational vehicle park, apartments at 20 units per acre, duplexes at 4.25 units per acre, a nursing home, clinic, convalescent homes, composting facility, mortuary, orphanage, or a cell tower.
Thank you. Other questions, Larry?
Yeah, so I just want to confirm. So this parcel was at one point owned by the same owners that developed Stone Creek,
Stonegate.
Stonegate,
Yes.
I'm sorry,
That is
Stonegate. Is
correct.
that correct?
That's my understanding, yes. The Wrights family, yes.
So this mix of zoning on it is entirely self-imposed. However, it ended up with 3 different zoning classifications, and since they seem to align with the adjoining Stonegate subdivision, and the town of Zionsville just didn't blanket impose this upon this property.
Yeah.
The zoning issues are entirely self-imposed, self-created. I know we talk on the BZA about hardship.
Yeah,
And
the mishmash of zoning, I don't know how it came to be, but yeah, I assume that's something that the Wrightses did something at the time. It predated a planned unit development. And so they did a rezoning where they combined various zoning classifications to try to arrive at the permitted uses that they have out there. So kind of a precursor to mixed use development. And so I assume this is kind of an artifact of that.
I guess the point of this, both the odd shape of the parcel, everything probably other than the electrical utility easement, it's just all self-created from the shape of the parcel to the zoning. So this statement that somehow that's being floated, that there is some requirement for the town of Zionsville to help alleviate whoever the current owner is, doesn't exist.
Yeah, there's not a requirement. So this is a rezoning petition. So it's in your discretion and ultimately the council's discretion. I agree with that. We find the property as it is. So it has the mixed zoning classifications. The shape of it, I think, is in part driven by the creek that runs through it, the power lines that run through it, and the historical division of the property by the prior owner or owners. But this petitioner is just finding it as it is.
I understand.
And trying to make the best out of something that's not optimal for anyone.
But along with the current group proposing and trying to find the highest and best use for them, the previous owner has had all the opportunity to operate, zone, do things with this property to put themselves in the best position possible. And this is what they ended up with. It didn't make any sense. Don't worry about it.
I know what you're saying.
I'll just cut to the chase. I've often always said, you don't own the view. But I do believe that people have an expectation of what the view should be. And the residents who have purchased properties next to land that was zoned by somebody with intent to a residential use should be able to rely on that. And so since some other entity wants to change it to a general business zoning, and then even that zoning doesn't really cover what they intend to develop on it, it's still going to require, I guess I just don't see any burden that we have to accept this.
One thing I will say, this if I could, Mr. Jones, I appreciate the opportunity, is as Mr. Casey mentioned, we did meet with the property owners most closely affected. So those property owners that live in the cottages. It was actually our very first meeting before we met with the Property Owners Association. And one of the things that they liked about the proposal was that the buildings were lower profile, but we could maintain that landscaping along the northern property line in particular, augment it as it went around the pond and down the west side of the property, and actually give them a better screening than if there were taller structures that could go up to 35 feet south of their property line. And so the 9'4" buildings were viewed as being advantageous. And the other concern they have, and it was not something that was intuitive to me, but it was probably more of a focus really than the aesthetics, was they did not want a use that required accessing Stonegate by vehicle. They didn't want to exacerbate what I think there's some perception today that the school, particularly at peak hours, drives a lot of traffic, and they didn't want anything to exacerbate that situation. And so when we kind of combined the aesthetic benefits with the lower traffic, that was why we got their support early on. when
And
we
just,
presented it
just
to them.
to clarify 2 points in there,
Yep.
the 35-foot structure would be a residential structure.
A residential structure, right, with
Correct.
windows.
It's
peering
residentially
out.
zoned land, which by right, they're entitled to a 35-foot tall structure, which would be another house like their house could be. Secondly, this additional access point is through the commercial portion of the development. Correct?
It's through West Stonegate Drive, and then you hang a right through the commercial development. So it would be coming in their main entrance, the same entrance that connects to the school.
But once again, the intent of the entirety of the development was for some sort of commercial node with roads and parking and use, all in accordance with that. So my point is, you're not dumping this 10 acres onto a residential street. It is being put onto a street that's part of a development that is the commercial portion of it. Correct? The zoning,
No, it's dumping out on Oak Street. That side drive is emergency access only.
no, the side drive I'm talking about is the one that goes through the commercial lots in Stonegate.
Correct, that's for emergency access only.
Correct, but if it
Yeah.
was otherwise developed,
Correct.
there is the potential. If the property stays as zoned.
Yeah.
And it's got that PB zoning up front, that's the same zoning as in the front of Stonegate, correct?
I'm not sure.
Are they all the same across Oak Street there?
From the eastern border of this site, as you move west, yes, that's all PB.
But then as you move over towards West Stonegate Drive through the,
And even to the first lot west of Stonegate Drive, that is also PB.
correct, okay. So in other words, it's contiguous and consistent.
Yes.
So my point is, if somebody wanted to develop the site as it is zoned, connecting it to the commercial drive or connecting it to the drive that services the other commercial uses that are part of Stonegate should not be I would not consider it to be an issue. Maybe it is.
Yeah. And I would just say, if I can anyway, is that was when we met with the neighbors and met in particular with representatives from the cottages, it was a concern of theirs because there is a sense that during the peak hours that West Stonegate Drive becomes congested, and they just did not want to see that overburdened with kids coming to and from school. So that was I just want to say for the record, that was a very significant issue to those residents.
You've been by that property?
Mhm.
So I go by it 2, 3, 4 times a day because I've lived in Stonegate for 11 years. It
Mhm.
is a trash dump. So, I think from an aesthetic standpoint, people would be buying a better view than they're buying today.
Let me add something. One of the things I'll say is we've all done this and we've all heard people say if it was something else that could be put there, I'd be for it. We've had people who got residential, they back up residential to it, they're against that. If you take a look at this, with the density of the landscape plan that is being proposed or, committed to, and you put a single story, unit on that back half, I mean, they're not even gonna know it's there half the time, except during the winter when they can probably see through the thing. But again, some of these are gonna be pine trees. So this is one of those things that no matter what goes in there, there's gonna be remonstrance against it. And I understand what you're saying, Larry. It's not our obligation to, zone this and again, all we're doing is making a recommendation. We're not passing anything. That's up to the town council. But I do think this is probably a better usage than what might goes in there. And in reality, the front half of it where the office building, all that thing, that's probably comparable what could go in there right now. And I think people would be against that if we were just dealing with the PB zoning portion on a development plan on that. So I understand, I get it, but at the same time, I don't think anyone's going to be happy no matter what goes on there. So it's really they've said it's the devil that you know. That may be true, and I personally don't think this is a devil.
So I will say there was a proposal 10 years ago to put 30 cottage homes like the neighborhood out on Zionsville Road, just past the cemetery. That saw remonstrance, single story houses. There was a plan to put apartments there. It saw remonstrance. So, I think to Mr. Franz's point, anything that goes there, somebody's going to remonstrate. I will say I was at the annual meeting week ago, 2 weeks ago, 0 remonstrance, and there were probably 50 people in the room. So for whatever that's worth.
I have a question, if this does go through. One thing that was brought up was if you sell it off to somebody else and changing that ability to have hours open 24 hours a day, is there something that could be put in that so that can't happen long-term, even through a sale? Is that possible?
We can always have commitments.
Because I do get that.
Yeah, it's a good point. Yeah, I'm making eye contact with my client, but we could add what he said relative to hours of operation into the written commitments. So that would be binding on the current property owner and going forward.
So that would run with the land? That would run with the land?
Run with the land.
Okay. So we just need to make sure whoever motions that they add that into the motions for that commitment.
Chris, I have a question that may be not relevant to anybody but me, but in the language, the verbiage on, in the motion, if we were to move this for a favorable recommendation, it says down here several things that have to occur, but it also says substantial compliance with the submitted site plan. I don't think I've ever seen the word substantial written in that form in a motion. Who determines substantial?
Your staff. Your staff does that.
And you have the final say, so it's whatever you think is good.
That phrasing has come up on previous projects, and typically it is relegated to staff to determine that. There have been occasions when staff will actually if we are not of like mind, we will then turn to council and say, how do we resolve this? And we've received guidance from them at that time.
Okay, thank you. That's what I wanted to
So
know.
we
I
did
thought
discuss
it was
this.
Staff, but I thought.
So basically, Sharon, if you're unhappy, you can send Roger out and he can count the trees.
We did have a conversation at the
right? Through the
pre-meeting
tree count?
about this.
Not helping there.
And we understand that because it's got to go through the development plan approval, that, stormwater management could say, hey, we want to shift this pipe 10 foot over here and move 2 trees and create an easement. And that's still substantial compliance
Cool.
at that point. So
Thank you very much. Just wanted to know.
But the project will have to go through drainage review, which will take into account a review of
yes,
the existing retainage
as part of the
pond.
development plan process.
Blah, blah, blah.
Drainage and legal drain, both. You'll
Yeah.
have both.
Any other comments, questions from commission members? All right, hearing none, can we get a motion? It's Jim's turn, is that?
Looks like Jim.
Since I
Somebody didn't
asked
take careful enough notes to do a complete motion with all the, oh, by the ways along with it. But I guess if you're asking.
I can help with the amendments if you want to get it started.
Let me get to my right page. I'll find it. Sure, thank you. Where electronics do slow me down a little bit.
Page 5 of the PDF.
Yeah, yeah, I figure there are some in the room. But, be happy to, that may take up the rest of the time. I guess I'll make a comment before I make a motion. BZA gets to see this, town council gets to see this, and we get to see this again. And that weighs heavily into the motion I'm going to make. I move that docket number 2023-27-C, a petition for rezoning of 10 plus or minus acres from the rural professional business PB rural single and two-family residential R2 and rural single and two-family R3 districts to the rural general business GB district receive a favorable recommendation based upon the findings as presented, recordation of the proposed petitioner's commitments, resolution of items noted within the engineer's comment letter, Exhibit 7, and substantial compliance with the submitted site plan, landscape plan, building elevations, and
A commitment
that
the hours of operation be as stated in the petition.
the hours of operation be as stated in the petition.
And that commitment number 5 be modified
And that commitment number 5 be modified
to add the language previously discussed.
to add
In
the
the meeting.
language previously discussed. And accepted by the petitioner.
There you go. Great.
All right.
And number 4 too. Is the landscaping. You wanted they agreed to modify that language also, I believe. On the commitments.
I'm not familiar with what you're referring to, Dave.
Well, when you first talked about the landscaping package shall be.
No, that was item number 5.
Okay, all right, my mistake then.
Okay.
Strike that.
All right. Can we get a second? Okay, thank you. Can we do a roll call vote, please?
Yes, David Franz,
Aye.
Mary Grabanowski,
Aye.
Larry Jones,
Aye.
Sharon Walker,
Aye.
Chris Lake,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Sari Madrick,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is docket number 2023-36-Z, Century Development Holiday Farms Senior Living PUD, 3795 South US Highway 421 Zionsville. This was continued originally from the September 18th, 2023 meeting. This is a petition to rezone 23.18 plus or minus acres from the SU7 district to a planned unit development to provide for a 3-story, 155-unit senior living facility with related accessory buildings. This acreage is to be incorporated into the existing Holiday Farms PUD. Roger, can we get a staff report, please?
Yes, thank you. Could you please promote my screen, please? Thank you. As mentioned, the petition is to rezone, the petition request is to rezone 23.18 plus or minus acres from the SU7 district to the planned unit development district. This acreage is to be incorporated into the existing Holiday Farms PUD. The site, as you're seeing on the screen in front of you, I've outlined it in black. It is located here on the east side of Michigan Road, immediately north of the Interactive Academy. It is immediately opposite the existing Holiday Farms PUD, which is on the west side of the road. That portion of the existing Holiday Farms PUD that is immediately across the street, this area is targeted for commercial development. We've had one petition go through for the Kitty Academy. We have just within the last month received other inquiries for development of a few of these commercial outlots. The current zoning and surrounding uses include to the north, immediately north, there's an emergency access drive that is fully improved, and the Bridlewood subdivision, which is zoned R1 to the north. To the east, Cox Creek flows through an undeveloped parcel from south to north. This parcel and Hidden Pines are zoned rural, single and two-family R2. Again, this area is Hidden Pines. To the south is the Interactive Academy, which is fully developed, and is zoned like the site special use 7. And to the west is the Holiday Farms PUD, which I mentioned. In rezonings, obviously the comprehensive plan needs to be looked at. This is from the Zionsville Comprehensive Plan. The approximate area of the requested rezoning is up in this area. This grade area is for public space or semi-public space, and that is for the Interactive Academy and the current SU7 zone parcel that is the subject of this petition. This is the updated concept plan, which has been updated since the last meeting that we had. The couple of the bigger changes on this plan is that they are now identifying a residential area, residential block of the acreage to be located in this area. Specifically, one of the permitted uses that still remains on the proposed use table is for single-family dwellings, and they would be limited to this area. This concept plan also shows an enhanced buffer area running along the entire eastern side of the site and along the northern edge that the petitioner is committing to. Some topics of interest. Since last month's meeting, the use table has been revised by the petitioner, removing some uses and placing a location limitation on residential uses to the residential block, which I mentioned. The question would be to the Planning Commission, is the updated use table acceptable? Staff is, again, to be clear, staff is not opposed to the proposed development of the senior living facility at the site, that being located here in the northeastern quadrant. Staff is encouraged that new inquiries for commercial development of existing platted lots within the existing Holiday Farms PUD have been received within the past month. But we still remain somewhat cautious or cautiously concerned about the unknown uses of the remaining acreage and how the availability of these additional retail and commercial lots could delay the development of existing available outlots within the existing Holiday Farms PUD. Approval of competing commercial lots. The town, as a reminder, the town did go to considerable lengths to upgrade infrastructure, anticipating returns through tax increment financing monies from commercial development in the central mixed-use block of Holiday Farms. Staff's position is that docket 2023-36Z should be favorably considered by the Planning Commission, subject to the requirement to record the proposed commitments upon adoption of the rezoning by the town council. I failed to mention the petitioner has provided draft commitments that would address development of certain portions of the site. That was a big factor in staff's resulting opinion. I'd be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions or comments for staff? Would the petitioner like to come and present on this topic?
Yes, good evening once again, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Matt Price, here on behalf of Century Development, and I can introduce the folks here from Century. I have Jordan Dorsey, and then to his right, Jim Reinhardt, who's with B3, who's part of our civil engineering team. And then the property owner, I've got representatives of Hinkie Development, Brad Hinkie, and Doug Fleener. If we could call up my presentation, if you will, I can take you through kind of the highlights of what we've changed since the last time we were here and talk about the specific commitments that Roger mentioned at the end. Go to the first slide. So we made a number of revisions since the October 16 meeting, which I can highlight for you. One of them was the extension of the buffer area along the entire eastern side of the property. When we were here back in October, that buffer area was shown as ending along the southern property line of what would be the new senior living community. So that's been extended all the way to the south. And we've created along the buffer, both along the eastern buffer and the northern buffer, a tree preservation area. The eastern tree preservation area is 50 feet in width, and the tree preservation area along the northern boundary is 25 feet. We also made, at the request of representatives from the Hidden Pines Homeowners Association, certain additional commitments, one of which relates specifically to the tree preservation zones I just mentioned, which would include planting evergreens to provide extra screening. And we've identified in the written commitments the specific number and ratio of those evergreens. That comment's genesis has been that certain residents of Hidden Pines can see through the trees today. You know, they have very substantial tree buffer between their properties and Interactive Academy. They can still see Interactive Academy. So they thought that an enhancement to the buffering with evergreens would be an attractive feature to the project. And so that's what we've done there. With regard to lighting, we've also made commitments with regard to exterior building lights. So a requirement that those be dimmed by 50% at 10 p.m., 7 days a week. And we've also set a height limit on light poles at no more than 20 feet. We're also prohibiting neon lighting. Concerns with regard to noise, we made a specific commitment regarding the separation of delivery areas from adjoining property lines. So there's a 50-foot minimum separation requirement. And then also a limitation on the time of day for deliveries, so that they're not permitted prior to 8 a.m. or after 6 p.m. each day of the week. One of the comments that we received from the Plan Commission back in October was to address certain of the land uses in Table 4. And we've done that. We've removed larger detached dwellings, the category of a model home, a library, post office, public service or governmental facilities, daycare, importantly, an automobile service station or gas station, food stand. We've taken all transportation and communications uses out. We've had ongoing discussion with representatives of Hidden Pines regarding a restaurant use, and in particular, a restaurant with a drive-through. My understanding is that you'll hear comments this evening that there are concerns over not restaurants necessarily, but restaurants with a drive-through. And so what we've tried to do is offer a kind of a compromise or a middle position that there would be no franchise architecture, no more than 2 total restaurant drive-throughs, and importantly, that any drive-through requires a special exception. So it would require any proposal to go back through the Board of Zoning Appeals and receive approval before a drive-through would be permitted. And then lastly, borrowing on a custom and practice in Zionsville with regard to a sunset provision, is that the drive-through itself would be limited to the actual applicant. So it would sunset with the applicant. It would not go on to a successor or an assigned. So like we've done, most often we've done it in the past with use variances, where we've set a sunset provision to say, okay, we'll permit this use with this particular user, but not to a new person or entity. If that person or entity wants to continue it, they need to come back in and get it reapproved. And so that's our compromise position with regard to restaurants with a drive-through. And then we've also, with regard to noise, we wanted to limit the opportunity for any noise intrusion. And so we've provided specifically in the PUD that there's to be no musical performances after 8 p.m. And pickleball is not permitted. In our very original proposal, we showed a pickleball court that we've replaced with a greenhouse on the site plan now, so there would not be pickleball permitted. If you go to the next slide. This is the site plan that Roger talked about earlier. So you see the tree preservation areas are the shaded areas along the north property line and the east property line. The block to the south east portion of the property is the residential block, and that is where all residential uses, so single family, any form of residential use is limited to that block under the terms of the PUD. Part of the thinking there was that when we met with neighbors, but not unlike the discussion we just had on the last petition, there was some sense of that residential uses might be preferred up in that corner of the property where they abut other residential uses, and the commercial uses could be out towards 421 and immediately across from the central mixed use district in Holiday. And so that's what we've done with regard to creating that residential use. Go to the next slide. I did want to emphasize the character exhibits that we provided in the PUD. There was some idea that or suggestion at our last meeting that the character exhibits in the Holiday PUD did not have any bite or significance, and we think they do, and that the proof of that is actually in the pudding as far as what's been built on the site. And we've got additional slides that we can hopefully talk about later in the hearing process, but we're providing these with the idea that this does represent the quality and character of the buildings that will be built as part of this project. Go to the next slide. And this is likewise part of our illustration. If you go to the interior pictures next, very high quality facility. The investment here is well over $25 million. So it's a very meaningful impact to the tax base, and also providing future tax increment that Roger mentioned. Go to the next slide. Just kind of elaborating on that a little bit. We estimate using our existing tax rate that the investment from just the senior housing project would generate over $513,000 a year annually, while ideally not imposing any additional burden on schools and community resources. One of the things that we wanted to reiterate tonight, as we've been working through kind of some of the site design issues, is that this is an important community asset as far as providing dwelling opportunities for seniors. This is for a demographic where the average age will be in the 80s. And we are purposefully seeking to place it here, kind of in the heart of things, not isolating that community into an area that is unseen or unseeable, except from its interior, but rather something that can be seen by friends and family members who are driving by on Michigan Road and be invited really to meet with their family members and visit them and have nearby amenities that will make it a desirable place to come and visit. I should also add that the investment is very significant, so that creates opportunity for this area that has some needs, historic needs that the developer is coming to. One of those is TIF financing for the construction of multi-purpose pathways along 421. You may recall that what we talked about being able to do with the investment here is provide continuous perimeter pathways all the way from Appaloosa to Willow Road. And the investment here is of a magnitude that it would allow for that. Century has made a commitment to fund through a TIF vehicle to fund those expenditures up front. They've published that to the Zionsville Redevelopment Commission. And And we made as a private commitment with representatives of Hidden Pines and Bridlewood that they would have a seat at the table with us as we go through that TIF process, so that the idea being that at the end of the day, we have a written development agreement that embodies that obligation to build those pathways and to fund those pathways. Another kind of corollary to that is the citizens' water. Bridlewood does not have, they have well water, not public utility water. And so they likewise wanted a seat at the table as we have discussions with citizens and bringing water to the site to participate in those discussions, to look for opportunities where they might be able to facilitate the connection of water to their subdivision as a result of this new investment. We've worked very hard with the adjoining homeowners associations and have enjoyed that opportunity very much. We feel like the proposal this evening is a sound one that provides a great use for the community and ancillary benefits that can flow from the new investment that's being made, and would welcome the opportunity to answer your questions tonight. Thank you.
Does commission have questions for the petitioner at this time?
I have one question. We noticed earlier, and I think I'm going through what was on exhibit 5, page 10 and 11 was just some text about what you've removed. It was on one of your slides too. I think if I've looked at this a little carefully now, what we were looking at was you removed, I think, like a preschool daycare kind of thing, but you left in a day nursery daycare. I'm trying to find what you took out, what the wording was specifically.
It says remove daycare, give me nursery daycare.
Oh, I think it looks like what's, here, let me check.
There seems to be a little bit of a, between that exhibit, page 10 and 11, what's in the table.
I think what we did is took out, if I may, I think we took out daycare, and what's been left in there is this kindergarten preschool.
That's on page 10, 25 of the PDF, that page with page number 10 at the bottom.
Was the reasoning behind taking out one and leaving the other? I thought it was more traffic related.
Yeah, it's so to your point, we were trying to address the traffic related concerns, I think, that were mentioned by the Plan Commission, and then also not to have a duplication of the land uses that are already at the central mixed use district. So I'm getting motioned as I was speaking that we would be fine deleting the kindergarten preschool land use in addition to the daycare land use.
I mean, I think that goes with the thought process behind it. I mean, it kind of looks like almost like it was just forgot.
So I've got concerns about the restaurant with the drive-through. To me, that just doesn't seem like a compatible use for that section of 421. Certainly does to the north at Appaloosa Crossing, certainly does to the south around Sycamore, 116th Street, but not necessarily in that section. Would you guys be willing to omit that from the use table?
You want to, let me, yeah, can I have just a quick?
Absolutely.
While he's doing that, Dan, I got a question. He's got the special exemption allowance. Is that something that is completely arbitrary to the Plan Commission, or is there guidelines? And if they meet certain guidelines, it has to be approved?
It's already in the zoning ordinance, the factors they have to meet when they go to the BZA for that.
Okay.
So it's not really, it's something you might want to talk about in the future as a proposed text amendment, but the factors that are on there are without the meet.
Okay.
Mr. Price, do you have follow-up? on
Yeah,
that?
so Mr. Hinkie advised that he is agreeable to that. The
Okay.
one caveat that he would like to preserve is the ability to have walk-up service for like an ice cream shop
I
or
think
even
that would be
a
fine.
restaurant where you can have takeaway.
Yep, okay, thank you. Any other questions right now for the petitioner? Okay, hearing none, we'll open it up for public remonstrance for or against the project. So if anybody would like to come up and speak, now's your time. Oh, looks like we got one here. If you could just state your name and address for us, please.
Yeah, hi, good evening, members of the Planning Commission. My name is Brad Russell, 3668 Evergreen Way, and I'm resident of Hidden Pines as well. This neighborhood is newer. A lot of people, a lot of residents built here knowing the special use zoning. So a lot of what I was going to talk about is the fast food portion or the drive-through portion. So I think that we've had a lot of, great conversations along those lines. So I'm happy to see that. There were a couple small comments that I just want to go over about the images of the character. I know, Matt, you spoke on that. I understand it's conceptual at this stage, but the question is there any way to ensure that the final facility actually looks closer to, so we don't end up with something that's just different, underwhelming. I know Mr. Price spoke about intent. I just don't know if there's any binding commitment that can be attached to that to keep it closer. And knowing how the PD works and that we're conceptual, I just wanted to state that. The other portion that was around the lighting. I know the dimming has been added to that. I know we've had issues with other surrounding developments like Opelousas Crossing, which I know is very different. I'm glad to see the dimmers in there at night, but thinking about my neighbors that will back up to this, are there any other additional commitments that could be added to that, like minimal parking light posts, lights that shine down, preventing LED ribbon and the bulb lighting on the top that you'll see up at Opelousas, potentially even looking at like a warmth window, like a Kelvin window, so we don't end up with some structures that have 5,000 Kelvins and are glowing. So just wanted to touch on that. But the main thing that I wanted to speak to was the pathways. As part of this project, if it goes forward, the town would require the frontage paths that are shown on the site to be built. I just wanted to bring to attention the network on the eastern side that Mr. Price spoke to. There's a lot of support around that path from many members of the current town council, from the town's pathways committee, to complete that portion. Requests have been made to the petitioner. I say the petitioners because this is Century is the listed petitioner for this, but in my review of this, because of the outlots, this is as much a Hinkie project as well. And so the requests were made by our neighborhood Hidden Pines, by Bridlewood, by Brittany Chase to extend the required paths beyond a little bit, somewhat north to connect to Opelousas, and then even down to Hidden Pines or Willow Road. And the response just asking them to do that is that both Century and Hinkie were not willing to do that. I do know that when this petition was filed, I reached out to the leadership at Interactive Academy, and I was told by them that when the purchase of this land was made, that Hinkie had basically talked about what they might be pursuing, and Interactive Academy, knowing the path portion, essentially gave a verbal that they would be willing to give the right of way or easement if a path was eventually extended down to connect. So that shows there is support for that being done. And I also think that there is precedent for this. And I caveat this because I didn't quite live in Zionsville when this went down, but when the Hinkie or the Holiday Farms project was built out, from what I understand is Hinkie built their internal path that runs from their clubhouse down south, and they paid for that path to extend beyond their property line and into the town's Turkey Foot Park. So if that's the case, then some extensions have happened. So the main thing that Mr. Price talked about was the TIF request that will be made. It's our our neighborhood who's been involved in these meetings, our understanding that this project can't go forward without the TIF financing. So Mr. Price mentioned the discussions we've had about how can we leverage the TIF. The concern is Holiday Farms PUD and TIF is kind of broken in a way because that project listed a lot of potential project improvements that could be made out of the TIF. Now, the money is not, the TIF dollars are not coming in as expected, and so the things like the bridge that's been talked about all over our district, it's never going to happen out of that TIF, and that TIF did not have basically development agreements in it that are binding that would have said, hey, this has to result from this TIF. And so I know there are discussions ongoing with the petitioners, with Corey Sharp and the RDC about that. But and what I'm saying is that the TIF, it sounds like discussions are being had where they're trying to put in development agreements, which I'm for. The concern is this body is not reviewing TIF financing. And I totally understand that, but I see these as someone who's trying to evaluate my stance on it as they're going together, because I only support the PUD as someone who wants pass, because I see it as the mechanism to produce those paths. Now, again, if this goes forward, that the question or the ask is, can this body, this is going to be is it a favorable recommendation? If that happens, can some recommendation from this body be given to RDC and TIF that those developer agreements become that are included? Because my concern is this goes forward and that doesn't happen, and these paths don't
That is a
materialize.
completely separate body, so you need to take that up with the RDC. I think they saw the error of their ways and how they didn't get some of that in writing previously, so I'm sure they'll be more stringent, and I would certainly encourage them to do so.
Sure.
However, that's outside of the purview of the commission.
Can I just ask a follow-up question? Because and again, I was speaking with Corey Sharp about this, and I really appreciate the work she's doing to what you're speaking of, to add more teeth to those. And I asked her, is there a way for the body to, in their recommendation, kind of suggest that the importance of that be included in there? And her response was, not really sure. So that was kind of a question, if that's something.
Our council is saying that that's essentially a separate issue in and of
Okay.
itself.
Okay. Just wanted to state it, so I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other individuals want to speak for or against this project? Going once.
Good evening, Steve Genko, 4006 Sugar Pine Lane, Zionsville. First, I want to thank the commission. You've indulged us with 2 continuances to allow us to work through some of the issues. We started a couple of months ago, and that invited a number of board members as well as residents from Hidden Pine, Bridlewood, and others. And we've gone from, I guess, a group of maybe a dozen people and whittled down maybe to 3-ish that met with him. And we hammered out some of the ideas that you all had in your packet, where we had about 7 out of 8 of the things that we wanted. And then tonight we got our 8th. So thank you for that. But we did this with Matt, with his group. I think they were pretty forthright in trying to get things. We definitely do want these pathways, and I think hopefully we're correct in assuming if we get a seat at that table for the TIF process, that's how we can ensure that these are put in a more substantial way, as opposed to what happened with the TIF across the street. Not to mention the fact that my understanding is we'll have dollars from the very beginning. And we've spoken with Jordan in his development of that. And we're hoping actually the pathways can be done actually when he's doing his pathways. So again, just wanted to follow up. Thank you all, and especially Roger. Thanks for the tutoring along the way. Thank you.
And I will say, for what it's worth, we do have a letter from the Zionsville Pathways Committee that was part of this packet. And they are also in support of getting that connection all the way from Appaloosa down to the Willows. So I'm sure they will be petitioning for that as well. Any other individuals who would wish to speak? Okay, we're going to close public comment. Commission members, questions, comments, motions? I'll take any of the 3.
So first question for me, SU7, what does that allow? I should have done this before I walked in the door, but.
SU7 is designed for charitable and philanthropic organizations. It was initially applied to the subject site and the Interactive Academy site when the property was still under the jurisdiction of Boone County. That's how it was applied, and it has remained when it came under Zionsville's jurisdiction.
So is it a marketable zoning classification? Where does it fall?
Not sure I follow your question.
You know, typically land prices follow with the more intense zoning classification. What we just did in approving the storage unit was basically solve the problem with a more intense rezoning of the property. Hence, in theory, justifies the numbers everybody wanted. Where does SU7 fall on the, and I guess I'm going to answer my own question. As an institutional zoning, it probably doesn't really pay a lot of property taxes.
It'd be a Traders Point Christian church. It'd be a mega church that would have the money to afford that big of a site at that cost per acre.
And so that answers that question.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of traffic, limited times, but a lot of traffic. I mean,
so it'd be difficult to get through.
Yeah.
But is it a benefit?
Living on the west side of Zionsville, anytime Traders Point lets out, I mean, you've got cops stopping traffic, and that really doesn't even help.
My second statement is, and I'm not going to budge off of this, I am not in favor of transferring a PUD from one side, from Holiday Farms to this parcel. I do believe we need to kind of relook at the language that we're putting in our PUDs to get a little better control over the design. As much as I appreciate all the imagery provided in here, it has nothing to do with the site plan that we're being provided. It's the imagery and the terms and everything else. Like I said, we proved that out with the KinderCare over at the other side of the street, that we wouldn't have had a say in what it looked like unless it needed a variance. So I don't think I think the PUD that is in place isn't really, it gives us no leverage our teeth to actually hold it to any certain standard. Back to what Roger says, we've got a glut of commercial outlets up and down Michigan Road. There is no need to create more. That's about it.
So question for council. We have two images in here. Well, we have more than two. We've got two at the very end of the petition. We've got two, I think, buried, 2 pages worth buried in the petition that are representative renderings of the building, of the actual assisted living facility. Can we state that those are in substantial compliance with the materials or not? Because at this point, it's just zoning.
You could ask for commitments. You can't impose a condition like that. You could ask for a commitment of some sort, but no rezone has a predetermined model done. And I think what the petitioner is saying is this is what we intend, and this is the character of what we've done across the street that you can see. If you want to try to see if they'll make commitments beyond that, then you can have that conversation with them, but the commitment is something they're willing to do.
I'm just trying to understand how we might implement some concerns that Mr. Jones has at this stage of the game.
It is basically in terms of how our language in our PUD is assembled. Well, it says a lot of
Can you
things.
say that again? Sorry.
The language within the PUD, within the ordinance, we are given a certain amount of reference to certain things are going to be done architecturally, but basically the standards are set by the developer. The town gives up control, other than saying whether or not it complies with the imagery provided.
Sure. You can judge whether you think that the language of the PUD ordinance gives you higher standards or lower standards, and that's fair. But
And that's my
that
concern
would be a
with,
more, well, that would be a more relevant discussion, I believe.
and that's, like I said, that is at the core of my concern. This PUD Holiday Farms has is a copy of the farms. And while we're comfortable at the time with what the design intent of the farm was going to be, in retrospect, we're just still relying on the developers honoring a set of commitments. Just the same as with what's going on over at Holiday Farms on the other side of the street. I mean, the reason I referenced the Michigan Road overlay is it seems like up the street, what started off as a relief from the Michigan Road overlay, that the initial buildings in Appaloosa, I think, are kind of interesting and unique. If I'm reading the plans I saw for the current proposal, it's a block with a triangle on top of it. And so I'm getting, my concern is keeping some sort of teeth in our process.
So A, the Michigan Road overlay would still apply to this site, even if it's a PUD.
Correct. I understand.
We can't, that's a question.
Oh, sorry.
No, because the PUD ordinance has removed the requirements of the Michigan Road overlay from the PUD ordinance in front of you tonight.
So, okay, so Appaloosa Crossing though did not remove the Michigan Road overlay.
Appaloosa Crossing is not a PUD.
Okay.
Yeah, that's,
Correct.
yeah.
Can I maybe comment on
Sure.
we called up a slide that shows a couple of things that are actually as built. One, our clubhouse, and the other is the Kiddie Academy. And the Kiddie Academy did not receive a variance. What happened is the petitioner for that, I think, did not do a good job of adhering to our architectural standards and appeared before you, and they were called out for that. And because of the good work of the Plan Commission, that was corrected.
But Matt, that's exactly my point. We had to call them out.
Yes, and that's happened. That's happened on Walgreens. That's happened on the building in front of Town Hall. That's happened at the Kroger.
Correct.
At the farm.
But none of those
that's
were
part and
PUDs.
parcel with enforcing any standard.
The question.
Doesn't mean we don't
the
have a
core
standard.
concern I have is that the developer has reserved the right to review the architecture
No,
in the PUD.
no, you have the ability to compare our architecture against the character exhibits.
My reading,
Go ahead. Hold on. Go ahead.
my core concern is with the Kitty Academy, whatever. They requested either there's something with their, whether it's a BZA or Plan Commission, they needed an approval from us. And that's what gave us a say to review their architecture. If they didn't, if they had complied with everything per the plan, I think it was mostly park. Oh, I know, it was drive too close to a intersection, correct?
That was one of the items.
Yeah, so if it wasn't for, go ahead, if you got a better point, or even better explain what the hell I'm trying to say.
The sequence of events that happened with the Kitty Academy was that they submitted a proposed development that had not yet been fully vetted by Henke. They came to the Plan Commission and you saw that what's being presented here is not consistent with the PUD that was approved. The character exhibits, it's not consistent with that. So the project was continued. They went back and worked with Henke to enhance the design. And they brought the enhanced design after Henke had approved that design. They brought that back to you and that's what was approved. And I'm trying to, I don't recall exactly if a variance was needed. I didn't think so for that. It was a waiver.
There's a waiver
For
on the development
For
plan.
the distance between an intersection and a
Right.
curb cut.
Okay.
So the design did not require any variances, anything from the BZA. But what happened was, again, the petitioner got out ahead of the process. They presented it before it had been approved by the developer.
And I do want to,
By Henke.
and I do want to give, Mr. Henke, do you want to speak or not? Sorry, I had you hold.
No,
I wanna
no
make
worries.
sure.
Brad Henke Development Group, 781 Old Ashbury Road. I was just going to comment that we do appreciate you guys vetting and looking through everything as well. We hadn't done that on that one. That specific group was from Dallas, Texas. We worked with them in Westfield as well, so they were just submitted to get it going there. But everything in the village, that building included, we work with local architect David Roush to review all the buildings too. So we try and add that extra element to it to have him make sure he gets that Zionsville feel on everything.
Do you have other comments?
No, it's looping back through what,
Okay.
I still stand by my statement of I don't believe we should take a PUD from one development and just carry it across the street to another, even if it's the same owner. And then the final thing is going back to just demand and need. We don't have it. And I think my concern is with some of the proposed uses, we are kind of lowering the standards that we have set for other locations for similar product. And eventually those other locations then will ask for the same relief that we're granting here.
Other members of the commission?
Could you go to one more exhibit, maybe? Could you show though maybe my last exhibit? Another one? What I was going to show is that since the last meeting we had an update on the number of parcels that are now active across the street from us, which includes Starbucks has been announced on the south side of Frederick Lane. We have a new Shops at Holiday Farms has been announced, and then Kitty Corner or Kitty Academy, which has also obviously been approved. Yeah, there it is right there. So the whole project was just approved in 2018. There was certainly a focus on the residential components of the project. It's now evolving into the commercial pieces, and that's taking off, just as we would expect. And the town will have every opportunity to use the TIF dollars as they see fit.
Any other questions or comments from the commission? Okay, hearing none, can we get a motion on this petition, please?
Sure, I'll give a motion. I move the docket 2023-36-Z, a petition to rezone 23.18 plus or minus acres from the SU district to the planned unit development to provide for development as specified within Exhibit 6 of the proposed Holiday Farms Ordinance, First Amendment, including a 3-story, 155-unit senior living facility with related accessory buildings, with the recommendation being certified to the town council for adoption or rejection, receive an unfavorable recommendation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Cindy Madrick,
And just to be clear, aye is in support of not approving it, and nay is against the
Yep, thank you.
motion.
I just was.
No,
I hear you.
we normally aren't doing the reverse here, so.
Can you restate Larry's motion? Because down here on the end, I want to make sure what you said.
He made an unfavorable recommendation. Okay,
Nay.
Jim Hurst,
Nay.
Chris Lake,
nay.
Sharon Walker,
Nay.
Larry Jones,
Aye.
Mary Grabanowski,
Nay.
David Franz.
Nay.
Motion does not pass.
Are we able to remotion this?
Sure.
Would anybody else like to make a motion?
Sure. I move that docket number 2023-36-Z, a petition to rezone 23.18 plus or minus acres from the SU-7 district to a planned unit development to provide for development as specified within Exhibit 6 of the proposed Holiday Farms Ordinance, First Amendment, including a 3-story, 155-unit senior living facility with related accessory buildings, with the recommendation being certified to the town council for adoption or rejection, receive a favorable recommendation as presented based upon the findings in the staff report, subject to the following conditions. 1, resolution of the staff comments, Exhibit 9A and 9B, and 2, recordation of the proposed commitments, Exhibit 7, upon adoption of the rezoning by the town council.
I was gonna ask if I can do an amendment there, to remove drive-throughs.
Oh, yes.
So we can have a restaurant with a walk-up, just not a restaurant with a
Yes,
drive-through.
That's a
So
friendly
you'll-
amendment.
you'll
And the
accept that?
preschool.
And that the preschool and
Yeah.
kindergarten be removed.
Yes.
Okay. Would anybody like to second that?
Second.
Okay, can we do a roll call vote, please?
David Franz,
Aye.
Mary Grabanowski,
Aye.
Larry Jones,
Nay.
Sharon Walker,
Aye.
Chris Lake,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Cindy Madrick,
Aye.
motion passes.
Thank you. All right. Moving on to new business to be heard this evening. We have petition 2023-46-MP, Nolan Schaefer, Schaefer Minor Subdivision, 7650 East 500 South Zionsville. Petition for approval of a minor residential subdivision dividing 7.33 plus or minus acres into a 3-lot subdivision, being in the rural single-family R1 district. Mr. Kilmer, could we get a staff report, please?
Thank you very much. If you could please put on my screen. Thank you. As mentioned, the petition for approval of a minor residential subdivision dividing 7.33 acres into a 3-lot subdivision being in the rural single-family R1 district is what is under consideration. On the screen in front of you is a location map. I'll briefly outline the site that is to be subdivided. This is on the north side of County Road 500 South, which is also known as, I believe, Whitestown Road. The zoning for this property. There we go. Thank you. Is rural single family, the R1 district. That same zoning applies to all the properties on the north side, northeast side of County Road 500 South, and to the southwest side, on the opposite side of County Road, the properties are zoned R2, which is another rural residential classification. The proposed, the comp plan for this, there's a small circle on this map. It has been identified in the Worth Township future land use map as general agricultural. And this is the proposed layout of the minor subdivision. Again, this is the exterior boundary of the site. And so we are looking at 3 lots. Here's lot 1, which would be 2.0 acres. Lot 2, which is in the middle, would be 2.16 acres. Lot 3 would be 2.08 acres. And there would also be a right-of-way dedication for the required right-of-way of 500 South. That right-of-way dedication is approximately 1.04 acres. Give you a little bit more. There's the topography overlaid onto the site. Should be noted that each lot is to be served by individual well and septic. Soil borings for each lot have been submitted to the Boone County Health Department, and each found to be suitable for an in-ground septic system. Also stated within the Boone County Health Department letter is that a perimeter drain will not be required for this lot due to the seasonal high water table. Staff supports the approval of petition 2023-46 MP to provide for a 3-lot minor subdivision, subject to the resolution of items noted within the comment letters, exhibits 6A and 6B. Be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Does the commission have any questions for staff at this time? No? Okay, hearing none. Do you have one?
I had
Yeah.
one. I don't know if this is the appropriate time.
Go for it.
Is there something that we do as a body to do a right to farm to those folks that farm around where his things are?
I think that's a law.
It is the law.
Okay,
And yeah, it's there. We don't have to do anything.
all right.
Some planning commissions have a rule that every time there's a rezone, you have to sign off on it, but it's the law and applies.
Okay,
I think it's unnecessary that people do that, but
Well, this planning commission has done that.
yeah, I think it's completely unnecessary. It is the law, and that was challenged in Hendricks County as recently as 2 years ago. The Supreme Court said that it's the law. It provides food stability. So it's going to continue to be the law. So
thank you.
you're welcome.
All right,
I want to raise pigs on my farm. I can't.
there you go. Any other questions at this time? Okay, do we have the petitioner present or online? Good. Please state your name and address.
Hello, I'm Nolan Schaefer. I live at 6577 West Deerfield Drive. Roger did a great job summarizing it. We are petitioning to split the 7.3 acres into a 3-lot subdivision with residential homes.
Any questions for the petitioner? No? All right. Any questions, discussion amongst commission members? No? All right. All right. Anybody want to motion this one? Oh, sorry. Open, does anybody from the public want to speak for or against the project? Thank you. All right. Anybody online that wants to speak for or against? No, thank you. All right. Now any discussion? No, no discussion. All right. I will accept the motion. If anybody would,
I move that docket number 2023-46-MP, approval of a minor residential subdivision dividing 7.33 plus or minus acres into a 3-lot subdivision being in the rural single-family R1 District B, approved based on the findings in the staff report, staff recommendations, submitted findings of fact, is presented and subject to resolution of the items noted within the comment letters, exhibits 6A and 6B.
thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Great. Roll call vote, please. Mr. Dale?
David Franz,
Aye.
Mary Grabanowski,
Aye.
Larry Jones,
Aye.
Sharon Walker,
Aye.
Chris Lake,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Cindy Madger.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you. Good luck on your project. All right. We will move on to our next agenda item. Docket number 2023-48-PP, Crew Car Wash Inc., School or Commercial Subdivision, 6419 East Whitestown Parkway, Whitestown. Petition for approval of a commercial subdivision of 7.92 acres into 2 lots being in the rural general business GB district and within the I-65 overlay. Roger, can we get the staff report, please?
Thank you. As mentioned, this is a petition for approval of a commercial subdivision of 7.92 acres into 2 commercial lots and a portion of dedicated right-of-way being in the rural general business district and within the I-65 overlay. On the screens in front of you is the location map. This should look familiar to you since just within the last month or two, we also had the petition for the Crew Car Wash, which would be located on the northern, I'm going to say third of the overall site. The overall site subject of this commercial subdivision is here. And it is bisected by an east-west access easement, which was part of the development plan approval for the Crew Car Wash. At that time, the owner of the property was not interested in subdividing the overall parcel, but when it became clear that because this property is zoned rural GB, one of the ordinance requirements is that a parcel can only have one use on it. And so therefore, the Crew Car Wash was that one use on the entire site. Since then, the property owner has agreed to go through this process to split the property into 2 pieces. The east-west road, though, will remain as an access easement, not a dedicated road. And the southern 2/3 of the site will be for an Aldi grocery store, which will be heard later this evening. The northern parcel, lot number 2, would be 3.02 acres. And the southern parcel will be 4.07 acres. The strip of land that I mentioned for right-of-way dedication, again, is not the east-west drive, but there is a strip along the eastern side of the property to go along with Royal Run Boulevard. As for topics of interest, the southern lot depicts 2 access points. I'm going to go to the site plan. Here's the site plan showing the 2 developments on it. Again, Crew Car Wash here on the northern portion, the proposed Aldi on the south. Access for the Crew Car Wash would solely be off of this access drive. However, access into the Aldi parcel, there would be 2 curb cuts on the access drive, but then also 2 curb cuts on Royal Run Boulevard. Royal Run Boulevard is under Whitestown's jurisdiction, and Whitestown has requested that the traffic impact study be updated to include these two access points for their final review and approval. The traffic impact study, obviously, that was presented did not include these, and so Whitestown is just wanting to make sure any new requirements of these two entry points will be addressed, and that would be addressed at the development plan. Well, that's a requirement of the DP later tonight as well.
Next petition.
Those be updated.
Okay.
Staff supports the conditional approval of petition 2023-48 PP, a primary plat to subdivide the 7.92 acres into two lots, subject to the resolution of items noted in the attached comment letter, Exhibit 6, receipt of a recorded access easement agreement, and an approved updated traffic impact study. I'm glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions at this time for staff? Hearing none, is a petitioner present? Please make sure to state your name and address for us, please.
Good evening. My name is Mike Timko with Kimley Horn, address 500 East 96th Street, Indianapolis, Indiana. Roger did a great job of covering it, and I also have Travis Smith with Crew Car Wash here with me as well. I believe the members are probably familiar with the development already, as we were here in July for the development plan for the Crew Car Wash. But as Roger stated, this would be a subdivision to create two lots, the Crew Car Wash on the north side, and then the next petition, the Aldi on the south side. Did want to share that the updated traffic study, as well as the addressing of the other staff comments, were resubmitted just earlier this afternoon, all agreeable to those comments that were provided. So just wanted to make that clear to the commission members. Otherwise, we're happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Anybody have questions for the petitioner this time? No? All right, thank you. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak for or against this petition, either present or online? No? No online? Okay. Discussion amongst commission members? It's pretty simple amount. If you want to go for a motion, have at it.
I will.
All right.
I move the docket number 2023-48-PP, a petition for primary plat approval to subdivide 7.92 plus or minus acres into two lots being zoned rural general business GB district and within the I-65 overlay be conditionally approved subject to the resolution of the items noted in the attached comment letter, Exhibit 6, receipt of a recorded access easement agreement and approved updated traffic impact study.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call vote, please, Mr. Dan.
Jim Hurst.
Aye.
Cindy Madrick.
Aye.
Chris Lake.
Aye.
Sharon Walker.
Aye.
Larry Jones.
Aye.
Mary Grabanowski.
Aye.
Dave France.
All right.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
And moving on, petition number 2023-51-DP Aldi Inc., Aldi Grocery Store, 6419 East Whitestown Parkway, Whitestown. Petition for approval of a development plan for an Aldi grocery store on 4.85 acres in the rural general business GB district and within the I-65 overlay. Roger, can we have the staff report, please?
Yes, sir. Much of this is going to sound very familiar, either from the last 10 minutes or from back in July. As mentioned, this is a petition for approval of a development plan for an Aldi grocery store on 4.07 acres in rural general business district and within the I-65 overlay. On the screen in front of you is the location map. Again, the Crew Car Wash, which was approved earlier this year, is located on the northern portion. The Aldi grocery is proposed for the southern portion. And I'll show the zoning map since I buzzed through it on the last petition. This is, again, the purple area is zone GB. Those areas that are not colored on the east side of Roy Run Boulevard and to the north of Whitestown Parkway. And here, those are all under Whitestown's zoning jurisdiction, which is why they are not colored. But again, the subject site is zone GB and within the I-65 overlay. The proposed project is a 19,050 square foot Aldi grocery store, would be located south of the proposed private roads, Center Drive. Related improvements would include parking areas and a retention area serving this specific site and the crew car wash development. The retention pond area is this L-shaped item, and the building is located here in the middle, with parking areas to the north and to the east. Building will utilize, and let me move on, there's the proposed landscaping plan. From building elevations, the building utilizes a variety of materials and colors. The primary exterior building materials will be brick, concrete masonry units, and a fiber cement cladding. The north and east facades will include a canopy providing cover to the main entry to the store. Here's that canopy area through here. Above the canopy, the north facade will include a silver aluminum composite panel area highlighted with shielded architectural lighting. I bring that up just because I know that lighting has been a source of concern recently. And what is being proposed is on the top side of this overhang area will be lighting fixtures designed to shine up onto this portion of the facade. They will be shielded, so we will not see the element themselves, but the direction of the lighting will be to illuminate this upper portion. Decorative wall sconces are also provided as accents on the building's facades. Screening system is provided to screen all roof-mounted mechanical equipment. South side of the building will include a single recessed loading dock. This area is also designed to house the trash dumpster. Now I want to go back to the site plan regarding this dumpster area. By ordinance, a building of this size requires a minimum of 2 loading docks, and a single loading dock is proposed. The petitioner has filed for a development standards variance to reduce the number of loading docks down to 1, down to the proposed 1. This variance request is scheduled to be heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals at their December 6th, 2023 hearing. Appropriate screening through the landscaping will also be provided for this area. There are some landscaping items noted within the comment letters that still need to be addressed, but we believe they can be. So therefore, staff's position is favorable to a conditional approval of petition 2023-51 DP, a development plan approval for Aldi grocery store, subject to resolution of comments within the attached comment letters, exhibits 5A and 5B, and the recording of the proposed access easement. It should be noted that signage, while shown on the elevations, the detail is not there yet to include that as part of the development plan approval. So they will need to submit for a separate improvement location signage permit. That would not come before you. If the signage does not comply with the ordinance, they would have to go before the BZA to receive a variance. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any, do what?
The resolution, the recommended motion doesn't seem to jive with what he's talking about.
In regards to what?
Well, he said exhibits 5A and 5B, and this says comment letters, and this is comment letter exhibit 6A.
Let me take a quick look.
Yes, I think what Mary is expressing is up under staff position.
Yeah.
It says subject to resolution of comments with the attached comment letters, exhibit 5A and 5B, and the motion says exhibit 6A. And she just wants to make sure that those are correctly identified.
It should be 5A and 5B.
Okay. So the verbiage about this correct.
Yep. I need to step back a moment. I should have done this the very first thing. I apologize. On the staff report, I had noted the representative from a different engineering firm, the correct information. is Aaron Reynolds from Civil and Environmental Consultants Incorporated. I apologize.
Okay, thank you. Any questions at this time for staff? Hearing none, would the petitioner please come up and present if they're present? Okay, during public comment, we'll hear from them.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, my name is Aaron Reynolds with Civil and Environmental Consultants, offices at 530 East Ohio Street, Indianapolis. Also here this evening is John McLean with Aldi, representing the petitioner. Roger did an excellent job of summarizing what we've presented for our development plan. I won't belabor going back over that. It seems like this is the third time you've seen it. If any members of the commission have any questions, I'd be happy to try to address those at this time.
Any questions for the petitioner at this time?
Just want to understand lighting. Lighting.
What about
How
lighting?
bright is it really going to look? I mean, I'm so cognizant of all these different neighbors that have brought this up, and if they'll dim at night, that sort of thing. I'm looking at the specs, but that doesn't mean much.
Sure, and I am not a lighting specialist. I'm a civil engineer, but I can tell you that the lighting plan that was prepared, a photometric plan was prepared. There are stipulated foot candle levels that have to be met at the property line. There was, I believe, one comment we received in regards to the height of the light fixtures. We had a base that was, I believe, 4 feet and a pole that was 21 feet. The total combined height is limited to 24 in the development standards. So that plan was revised, and now we have fixtures that total 24 feet in height. And the photometric requirements, again, are met with the plan that's been provided, and that being the foot candle levels at the property lines.
This may be a question for the owner themselves. Is there a plan, or is it intended that Aldi would dim those lights after a certain time at night? You know, after the store closes or after midnight, the lights dim down? What is your standard process with that? If you could help us understand that.
Yeah, John McLean with Aldi, business address 486 East Stop 18 Road in Greenwood, Indiana. Generally, our parking lot lights do dim in the evening. I have to get the specifics on the exact times for that, but hours of operation are 9 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay. What about the building lights? Do they stay fully lit all night?
They do not. I know our logo, backlit logo,
Stays lit.
does not stay, or generally stays lit all night, but the other building lights do not.
Okay. And there is one residence south of here, but not somewhat close to this location. Yeah, I'd rather. Yeah.
Mr. Lake, if I can add to that comment.
Sure.
The residence to the south of this site is the owner of the overall site.
Yeah.
So
Gotcha.
that is not.
Did the owner sell this property?
Not, I am not aware if a sale has gone through recently. Oh, transfer.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for the petitioner at this time? Okay, we'll open it up for public comment. Do we have somebody online that would like to speak? If you could promote them, please. There we go. Jay, if you could unmute your microphone, you are able to speak to the commission. Are you able to unmute them? Moving on.
Wow.
Anybody else in person who would like to speak for or against petition?
Without using
Yes.
derogatory language.
Okay. Hearing none, any discussion amongst commission members? No? Okay. Anybody want to make a motion? Please.
I wrote that down. I move the petition number 2023-51-DP, development plan approval for an Aldi grocery store on 4.07 plus or minus acres in the rural general business GB district and within the I-65 overlay be conditionally approved based upon the findings of fact as presented, with conditions as noted in the staff report and subject to resolution of comments within the attached comment letter, exhibits 5A and 5B. This conditional approval does not include signage.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second, thank you. Roll call vote, please, Mr. Dale.
Mary Grabanowski,
Aye.
David Frowns,
Aye.
Larry Jones,
Aye.
Sharon Walker,
Aye.
Chris Flake,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Cindy Madrick.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Good luck on your project. Our final docketed item of this evening is item 2023-52-MP. Lewis Samuels Omari Minor Subdivision, 8255 East 500 South. Petition for approval of a minor residential subdivision dividing 6.349 plus or minus acres into a 3-lot subdivision, being in the rural single-family R1 district. Roger, can we get a staff report, please?
Thank you. Again, this is a petition for approval of minor residential subdivision dividing 6.39 acres into a 3-lot subdivision being in the rural single-family R1 district. The map on the screen shows the site here on the south side of County Road 500 South. The zoning map shows that this site is zoned R1 with subdivisions to the north, developed subdivisions to the north and to the west that are zoned RSF2. The comp plan map identifies this site. It's located in this area. Quite honestly, it was very difficult to determine whether it was designated for residential low or residential medium, but the result is it is targeted for residential. This is the proposed primary plat. I'm going to give you a sneak peek of the clean version of this, which is here. It's a little easier to see the division of the 3 lots. But I do want to go back to the primary plat to show some existing improvements on the site. Again, here is lot 1, and there's a proposed building location there. An existing residence would remain on lot 2, and an existing barn and a future residence would be on lot 3. This sets up a situation where lot 3 will require a development standards variance from the Board of Zoning Appeals because the result of this subdivision would be lot 3 having an accessory structure on it prior to the establishment of a primary structure. The petitioner, this is his proposed residence, which he is hoping to start construction in spring of 2024. So very, very soon. But again, he is aware that he would need to secure a variance from the BZA for this. One of the differences between this subdivision and the ones we've discussed earlier tonight, this subdivision would be served by public water and sewer, not well and septic. There is a water line on the north side of County Road 500 South that they will be able to tap into, and they will be able to, they're proposing to hook into existing sanitary through the Pemberton subdivision. They are proposing an easement from the area to be subdivided through lot 15 of Pemberton. And the way that they can do this is that the petitioner is also the owner of lot number 15 in Pemberton. And so that will work out well. They are still going to need approval from the Pemberton HOA to cross this area of common area of Pemberton for that easement line or for that sewer line to cross that easement. And that is one of the requirements within the comment letters that is within the motion. So again, going back to kind of the cleaner version, which is easier to discern where the lot breaks are. Again, lot 1, lot 2, and lot 3. Staff supports the conditional approval of petition 2352 MP to provide for a 3-lot minor subdivision subject to resolution of the items noted within the comment letters, Exhibit 6A and 6B, and BZA approval of the requested development standards variance. Please note that I believe in the motion I provided to you, I did not include the word conditional for conditional approval. It should be conditional approval. With that, I'll be glad to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions at this time for staff? Okay, hearing, you have one, Sharon?
No, I'm just gonna mention there's nothing that would prevent a shared driveway, correct?
That is correct. They're going to need to get curb cut approvals, and shared driveways are actually encouraged to reduce the number of curb cuts.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
But then lot 1 will need a separate curb cut.
Lot 1 will require its own curb cut. The existing cut that is for the property would be a shared point of entry for lots 2 and 3.
And is lot 1 going to end up being a flag lot?
No, we've done the measurements. It's close, but no.
It just seems like a lot of slicing and dicing. I understand the intent, but between the private sewer easements, shared drive, I mean, I understand.
Is the petitioner present? If you'd like to come up and speak on your behalf, if you could just give us your name and address, please.
Sorry, I have to be last.
Yeah.
I'm sure you guys want to go home. Louis Samuels, 5130 Melbourne Place, Zionsville. Yeah, I couldn't expound on it more than what Roger's done, other than Larry, what you mentioned is to a lot of slice and dicing. Lot 1 is for, there is no plan to put a house on there because our residence is going to be lot 3, and already there's a house on lot 2, which was existing and was built in the 90s. There is no plan to put a house in the near future on lot 1, but I wanted to future build it, future proof it in case at some stage it could happen. But there is no immediate plan in place to do that.
So are you going to be able to gravity feed the sewer from these parcels, or is it going to be a?
No, it'll be pumped. Forced, yeah.
Force main.
Yep.
Okay. Any questions for the petitioner?
Horses or codes?
Horses. 5 down to 2 and no more.
If you want some more, we've got some.
No, I'm good. Good with 2.
All right, there are no other questions. We'll open it up to the public for comment. Obviously, there's nobody here. Is there anybody online? Great, I wasn't gonna allow them anyway. I'm just teasing, totally teasing. Yeah, after that last one. Any discussion from the commission? No, I'm open for motion.
I'll do it for fun.
Okay, go for it.
Put in the word conditional.
Yep. Thank you. I move that docket 2023-52 MP approval of a conditional approval, conditional approval, right? Of a minor residential subdivision dividing 6.39 plus acres into a 3-lot subdivision being in the rural single family R1 district be approved based on the findings in the staff report, staff recommendations, and submitted findings of fact as presented. And do I have to say subject to the resolution of the items noted within
Yes.
the comment letters, exhibits 6A and 6B?
Great, thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Multiple, thank you. Roll call vote, please.
Cindy Madrick,
Aye.
Jim Hurst,
Aye.
Chris Lake,
Aye.
Sharon Walker,
Aye.
Larry Jones,
Aye.
Mary Grabinowski,
Aye.
David Franz,
Aye.
motion passes.
Great, thank you. Good luck with your project. And then, while
Thanks for
that was
hanging
our
in there
last.
with us.
Hmm?
I'm just thanking you for hanging in there with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that was our last docketed item. We do have 2 other items to cover that are minor development plan approvals. Is that going to be you, Roger, or is that going to be, okay. If you could take the first one, which is, hold on, ACT 2023-79, RLL headquarters, please.
Thank you. Again, these are minor development plan amendments that ordinance requires. They've been approved administratively. They qualified under the definition of minor DPAs within the ordinance. And the ordinance requires that we report them to you. The first one this evening is ACT 2023-79. This is for the RLL headquarters. And specifically, I have the aerial photo of the site up on the screen for you. The item that has been requested to be changed and approved is the landscaping within this front area. What has happened was on the original approval, that was to be a grassed, just a seeded area. And they had trouble with all of the seed drying up and blowing away that resulted in the photo that's up on the screen now. And so what they requested was to, instead of just going with grass, to go with some ornamental grasses that are a little more hardy, a little more resilient to the situations that took away the just regular grass. So again, they're proposing a few different types of grasses, and then along with rock as the filler in between the grassed plants. So that is ACT 2023-079.
And there were no concerns with stormwater
No,
runoff?
no. When staff receives one of these requests for a minor development plan, we still run it by everybody else.
Okay, great, thank you.
It is not solely planning and zoning staff that looks at these. We do consult with the other departments.
Appreciate that, thanks.
The second minor development plan amendment is for what was formerly known as Hotel Tango, that has now changed hands and is now to be known as the Zionsville Public House. They're looking to make some changes to their exterior seating area. So here we're looking at kind of the plan of, this is the restaurant area, but the area of change is primarily down in this quadrant. What they're looking to do is add some enhanced landscaping areas to provide better screening of these outdoor seating areas, and also some more landscaping here near the entry into the facility. Additionally, these are photos or drawings of the original Hotel Tango, what was constructed. And now they are looking to take out this fireplace and the area this area that would then be wide open. They're looking to put down some turf area over some, right now it's currently rock, just making this more of an eating space. And then this area that is in front of I'm going to jump down here to this drawing. You see the large covered area extending out from the building. In front of that is an open area. I want to show it. This is probably, well, this is the best. All of these tables without the new pergola that they want to add would have nothing above them. And so they're looking to add a pergola in addition to that angled roof that covered the patio area. Sorry, I'm rambling. It's a little late and I'm a little tired. So maybe I should just stop and ask for any questions.
We have to vote on these?
No.
Okay.
Well handled, sir.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
And finally, you all should have in your hands discussion or procedures for continuance requests. Who is going to lead this discussion?
Yes, may I make one comment though? I'm still waiting on findings for positions 51 and 52.
Here you go.
Okay.
Thank you for asking. Thank you.
You have had a lot of continuances recently, and so your continuance rule is difficult to read and follow, I think. So Roger and Mike and Janice and I spoke about, maybe we could give you something to keep handy about what your rules actually say. And I tried to put them in more of a logical order about who can request them. What about the first request? What about the second? What about the third? And then and so on. So that if you have questions about continuances, this FAQ might assist you. It is not a restatement of your rules, kind of a reordering in a way that I thought made sense. I hope it's helpful to you. If you ever have any questions, you can call us and we'll help you work through that.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Is there any specific action necessary to strike from the minutes the offensive and racist comments made?
No, they'll be stricken. They were not part of our meeting. It was a hack, so we'll make sure that's taken. Mike and I've already been discussing it during your meeting.
I had little doubt anyone thought they.
It's actually more common than one might think, and I've. had to
I've
deal with it
heard of a
before.
high school teacher who had something like that in a seminar and she got freaked out.
Yeah, it happens
We had one
more frequently. That's
Either-
why.
in
That's
Plan
why-
Commissioner BZA.
They're
Not too
saying
long
all
ago.
different places.
That's okay.
Not graphic in nature, not
Graphic,
graphic in
somebody-
nature
some
like
kid
that.
got on,
Yeah, some kid got on there and was like.
But that was offensive.
That was very. Oh, yeah.
Can I suggest we
Yeah,
discussion on this topic while we're being recorded?
Yes.
Maybe we should adjourn.
I move that we adjourn.
Somebody second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call for that, Chris?
No.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Have a
Thank you,
good
Dave.
Thanksgiving.
Thanks, Dave.
Bye.